rise to nominate Kevin McCarthy for Speaker of the House.
A speaker has not been elected.
We may have a battle on the floor, but the battle is for the conference and the country.
And the next Speaker of the 118th Congress, Kevin McCarthy.
Today, I'm proud to announce that we are introducing the Limit, Save, Grow Act of 2023.
This isn't going to be a Republican or Democrat idea. This is really for America telling Congress there should be some consequences for you not doing your job.
I am directing our House committee to open a formal impeachment inquiry into President Joe Biden. Now, I would encourage the president and his team to fully cooperate with this investigation in the interests of transparency.
I welcome this kind of examination because people have got to know whether or not their president is a crook. Well, I'm not a crook. I've earned everything I've got.
Donald Trump arrived in New York last night to stay at his possibly soon-to-be renamed residence, Trump Tower, ahead of his appearance today at a Manhattan courthouse for fraud trial. And I just want to say it's really nice of him to come back to New York for our first show. He's home recuperating after a long day of scowling. Here he is arriving at the courthouse for the fraud trial today and standing there waiting to go in like a guy waiting to use the bathroom at a concert. Come on, hurry up. I want to get back to my seats before he plays Piano Man.
Bobert was kicked out of a musical for inappropriate behaviour. And while I would love to joke about that, I don't want to get bogged down in it. After all, she was kicked out of the show. That is probably punishment enough. So instead, we're going to move on to...
I want to talk about rats being eradicated from New York.
This is a continuation of the single greatest witch hunt of all time. She said, well, now I'll go back to get Trump again. And this is what we have. It's a scam. It's a sham. People are being murdered all over the sidewalks of New York. If I didn't run, I'd be sitting right now at a beach like Biden does every time, even though he's supposed to be working. They have one property that's worth anywhere from 50 to 100 times what this judge put down as a value. Coca-Cola, take a look at their value. They have a value. The value of their brand is more than everything else put together. One other thing. We have a clause in the contract which tells, essentially, buyer beware. When you take a look at the financial statement, don't believe anything you read. Do not believe anything. If I weren't running, I wouldn't have any of these cases. I wouldn't be seeing you this morning. But I'll be seeing a lot of you.
Just briefly, the inappropriate behaviour that Bobert engaged in apparently involved her being loud and refusing to stop vaping around a pregnant woman.
I'll be seeing a lot of you? He sounds like a creepy husband from a Lifetime movie.
I'll be seeing a lot of you, Deborah. You'll never find all the cameras I installed.
Also, there was some fondling and light over-the-pants hand stuff, which was caught on video. But again, I don't want to get into that too much, because...
I would say it's not exactly a genius legal strategy to attack the judge right before you walk into his courtroom. This guy's an ass, a loser, I hate his guts, and I hope he rules in my favor.
It was Beetlejuice, by the way. That was the musical. Lauren Boebert was watching. It was a touring production of Beetlejuice the musical. I just need you to know that.
Now, this was a plan a long time coming. Because these rodents eat at the very fiber of the city and the state.
I'm not saying it'd be appropriate to engage in high school freshman-era hand stuff during a production of any musical, but I just wanted to be absolutely clear that this wasn't one of the more explicitly sexual ones, like Spring Awakening or Rocky Horror or Cats.
The other thing he said during his rant was when he claimed he couldn't be held liable for any of the false statements about his business assets because his financial documents have a disclaimer in them that says nothing in them is true.
This was Beetlejuice, a show that's quite loudly about death. I'm just saying, if you're going to get your nipples tweaked and your pipes squeaked, you save that shit for Fiddler like a goddamn adult. But again, it's an old story.
We have a clause in the contract which tells, essentially, buyer beware. We have a clause in the contract. It's like a buyer beware clause. It says when you take a look at the financial statement, don't believe anything you read. This is up front. Don't believe anything you read. Some people call it a worthless clause because it makes the statement and anything you read in the statement worthless. My financial statement. At some point, I hope they get it.
You're going to turn it over?
No, at some point, I might. But at some point, I hope they get it because it's a fantastic financial statement. It's a fantastic financial statement. So at some point, I look forward to, frankly, I'd like to have people see my financial statement because it's phenomenal. No, it's not up to me. It's up to lawyers. It's up to everything else. It says go out and do your own research. Go out and do your own due diligence. You have to study the statement carefully. Do not believe anything.
Sorry, there is just one more thing about Lauren Boebert. Reports say that after receiving a warning at intermission, the final complaint that led her to being kicked out came 5 minutes into Act 2. Now, if you don't know the show, that puts us comfortably into That Beautiful Sound.
Wait, what? You can't be held liable because your business records have a disclaimer that says don't believe any of this?
Anyway, as she was being escorted out of the theatre, she apparently said, "Do you know who I am?" and "I will be contacting the mayor," which are two just catastrophically bad decisions.
The only way to eliminate the New York rat problem is to wipe them completely from the city. Hell, wipe them from the state.
Generally speaking, if you're an alleged criminal trying to look innocent at a fraud trial, I would not go with menacing scowl. And as you can see from these images, he's having a blast. If you didn't know the context and just saw his face, you'd think he was on trial for all the murders.
If you don't get all of them, if they remain even slightly, they will breed and they will make more.
Begin with a major ruling in a civil case against Donald Trump and his family business. In a 35-page decision yesterday, Manhattan Judge Arthur Engoron found the former president and his two oldest sons and their companies liable for fraud.
The judge found Trump, quote, repeatedly submitted fraudulent financial documents about the value of his assets to banks and other insurance companies, and that his financial statements were, quote, based in a fantasy world, not the real world.
The Attorney General's team sought to convince the judge in this case that Trump should be barred from doing business in the state of New York.
The former president could eventually lose control of iconic properties like Trump Tower.
Is it clear, does he have $250 million if that was an actual penalty that the company was to pay?
I'm not sure how liquid he is at the moment and whether he could pay that, but this is obviously a big question, is what his actual assets are.
That's right. Trump might not even have the money to pay the penalty in his fraud trial, which means there's a remote but realistic possibility the Trump Tower gets taken away, he has to sell Mar-a-Lago, and he ends up crashing with Rudy Giuliani. I call tap bunk. But boss, I don't have a bunk bed.
Sexual activity during Beetlejuice the musical. You would hope no one knew who you were, and you definitely wouldn't want to immediately get on the phone with the mayor to tell him what had just happened. And the thing is, sadly, this incident has now derailed me so much, I don't even have time to talk about it.
The judge effectively decided he didn't need a trial to determine the Trumps were liable. The judge wrote in his ruling, quote, this is a fantasy world, not the real world, and admonished the former president for his overvaluing his holdings by as much as $2.2 billion. In one example, Trump overestimated the size of his Manhattan apartment, which he spent years living in, by 19,000 feet or 200%. Judge Engoron called that absurd, writing, quote, a discrepancy of this order of magnitude by a real estate developer sizing up his own living space of decades can only be considered fraud.
Much like Lauren Boebert and the musical Beetlejuice, you'll never get to know how it all turns out. Instead, we need to catch up on what happened in New York.
Trump inflated his own apartment size by 200%. In other words, he tripled it. I wouldn't be surprised if the photos were fake, too. Remember how we all thought it looked like this? That's Photoshop. If you remove the filter, it looks like this.
Now, what this video is actually about are the rats who are jumping the ship.
This ruling undercuts his entire mythology. Everything about him is a lie. Not only were his businesses and net worth inflated, but he even pretended his own apartment was 3 times bigger than it actually was. Next, we're going to find out he and Melania are just friends. I'm kidding. Friends like each other. And yet somehow
Trump's own executive assistant has come out and said that he used top secret documents as Post-it notes to make to-do lists for her.
this fraud trial could very well be the least of Trump's concerns. As we all know, he's got 4 upcoming criminal cases to deal with, and trial dates have been set for 3 of those cases.
She's also said, just before she went to go speak to the FBI, he said to her, "You don't know anything about the boxes."
On top of the civil fraud trial Trump appeared at today in Manhattan, he's also, of course, facing 4 indictments, 3 more, it should be noted, than the Unabomber, who, as the Una implies, had just the one.
Now, this girl certainly is a rat. She stayed with him for years through the administration. I think she started like in 2018. And then after January 6th, she went with him to Mar-a-Lago. This girl loved his ass.
This looks like more evidence of our national secrets, say on a stage at Mar-a-Lago. But when we start talking about things that look like evidence, they want to act like they blind. They don't know what this is. These are our national secrets. Looks like in the shitter to me.
A fancy chandelier right next to a cheap curtain rod. I don't think I've ever seen a weirder combination of expensive and chintzy choices in a bathroom before. It's like a porta potty with monogram towels. Where's Rudy? He's still in the or sometimes he breathes in too much hair dye and passes out in there. Boss, it happened again. I had the craziest dream where I was the president's lawyer. I am.
Maybe that was the problem. Trump loved her ass too.
Former House Speaker Kevin McCarthy offering a defense of Trump's bathroom/filing cabinet.
Is that a good look for the former president to have boxes in a bathroom?
I don't know. Is it a good picture to have boxes in a garage that opens up all the time? A bathroom door locks.
Also, a bathroom door only locks from the inside. If no one's in there, it's open. So what you're saying is our nation's most sensitive and highly guarded secrets are safe as long as someone's in there taking a dump.
At some point, she had to leave.
Frontrunner for the GOP nomination is facing 4 indictments and civil fraud case that could end his entire business. But fair is fair, and I do want to give the Republican Party credit. I'm happy to report that in the 5 months since we were last on the air, the GOP has undergone a radical transformation.
Now, Cassidy Hutchinson, she's slightly less of a rat. She only stayed with him through the children in cages and the complete fuck-up of our COVID response.
Into a serious, sober-minded collection of diligent professionals capable of competently administering the basic functions of government. And I'm just kidding, it's still a giant ass-over-tea kettle cluster.
She stayed with him all the way to January 6th.
This is CNN Breaking News.
Good evening, everyone. This is CNN special live coverage on a chaotic night, even by Washington standards. I'm Dana Bash, live in the nation's capital. Here's the headline. The United States government will not shut down, at least not for another 45 days.
The House Speaker had his back up against the wall, it seems. He was not going to get anywhere with his Republican conference alone. There was just too much infighting going on inside the conference. And so he had to work with Democrats to get this done here.
This all comes, Jake, as the tension was palpable among some of the Republicans.
The fate of House Speaker Kevin McCarthy is uncertain at this time, as hardliners in his party are pushing for his ouster.
Do you still support him as
Speaker?
I have my questions. I have my doubts.
We cannot blame the Democrats for having not done our job.
This is a huge mess. I've been frustrated by the process. I thought we would be better than this.
We have serious statesmen like Rudy Giuliani, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Mike Lindell, and the lady who got horned up at the Beetlejuice musical. Seriously. Republicans, why did you think you would be better than this? Did you forget the entire Trump presidency? And if so, can you send me some of the pills that helped you do that?
Now, this chick has a lot to say.
You're like a Jets fan saying, I think this is our year after Aaron Rodgers went down.
This morning, Congressman Matt Gaetz says that he is moving forward with a motion to vacate to try to oust McCarthy as Speaker.
I do intend to file a motion to vacate against Speaker McCarthy this week.
If somebody wants to make a motion against me, bring it.
He says he's coming for you. Can you survive?
Yes, I'll survive.
Ooh, that's the worst Gloria Gaynor cover I've ever heard.
The yeas are 216. The nays are 210. The office of Speaker of the House of the United States House of Representatives is hereby declared vacant.
Gaetz versus McCarthy is a real alien versus predator situation. In fact, Gaetz and the alien have the same size forehead, so that's pretty cool.
I would say that some of it's astonishing, But come on. Is there anything that this asshole has ever said that was really astonishing?
House GOP is focused on Hunter Biden, spending this entire Thursday morning and afternoon, again, just 2 days before the government shuts down on Saturday, to open their impeachment inquiry into his dad, the president. They're looking into Hunter Biden as well.
Even some Republicans this morning are privately grumbling about how that first impeachment hearing went. No bombshells, no direct evidence that President Biden did anything wrong.
I want to emphasize what it is that we're here today for. This is a question of an impeachment inquiry. It is not a vote on articles of impeachment. In fact, I do not believe that the current evidence would support articles of impeachment.
That's maybe not a witness I call initially to lay out the case. And if that was the professor's thought and that's what he believes, maybe we sit around a conference table and say, hey, when we have on the whiteboard that professor's name, why don't we put him on the maybe category? Why don't we, maybe we bring him in a couple weeks. Maybe we don't start with him. It's just an idea.
Wow, you know it's bad when even Steve Bannon is sassing you for screwing up. This is a guy who got canned after 6 months in the White House, got indicted twice, got sentenced to 4 months in prison for contempt of Congress, and can't decide which collared shirt to wear, so it just goes with all the above. Raised bail money, he's been starring in that Beetlejuice production Lauren Boebert was at.
I have not seen any evidence that links President Biden to Hunter Biden's activities at this point.
I actually wrote down right here some other Republican congressmen who have said similar things. Quote, Dave Joyce, not seeing any facts or evidence. Don Bacon, quote, there should be a direct link to the president in some evidence. Dusty Johnson of South Dakota, I've not seen that evidence. So this is a widespread belief among the House Republican Conference.
We don't have the evidence now, but we may find it later.
Because the shit this guy says in public is fucking unbelievable for a president. For this guy, it's just a Tuesday.
He did it to me, and had they not done it to me, I think, and nobody officially said this, but I think had they not done it to me, and I'm very popular in the region, they like me and I like them, the Republican Party, perhaps you wouldn't have it being done to them. And this is going to happen with indictments, too.
He's the world's most notorious pathological liar, and yet he also just blurts out the truth like he's on his way home from the dentist. Mom, did you know Dad has a friend named Kathy? Because he says it's a secret.
She even said that she saw Trump's chief of staff burning documents in the fireplace. And this asshole's already come out and said, no, that was just newspaper. As if this chick couldn't tell the difference.
We must receive the testimony of Rudy Giuliani and Lev Parnas, the insiders who know the origins of the lie upon which this sham impeachment is based and who work to spread it.
I reclaim my time and I ask the question, where in the world is Rudy Giuliani?
Sounds like a game show where kids would have to guess where Rudy was based on where you told him to be. All right, Gumshoes, you tell Rudy Giuliani to meet you at the Best Western. Where's he gonna turn up? At a screening of Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Correct. Rudy is, of course, a figure in all of Trump's various schemes and spent a lot of money helping him. He flew around the country on his own dime and bought hair dye by the barrel just to try to sway state lawmakers to overturn the election results for Trump.
Some exclusive new reporting on the hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees that Rudy Giuliani is now staring down and the desperate attempts that he has made to get former President Donald Trump to cover them. With his attorney in tow, I am told that Rudy Giuliani traveled to Mar-a-Lago in late April on a mission to make a personal appeal to Trump to pay his legal bills. But apparently it fell on deaf ears. Trump is notoriously strict about digging into his own coffers. He did not seem very interested, I'm told, in covering everything that Giuliani and Costello wanted. One source says that he verbally agreed to help, but he didn't commit to any specific amount or timeline.
So no? The answer was no. What was Trump's excuse? Sorry, Rudy, I can't even afford a real shower rod in my...
And the judge in the New York fraud case has just made that so. Donald Trump committed fraud
Rudy Giuliani is being sued by his former attorneys. The law firm that represented the former New York City mayor says he owes them more than $1.3 million in unpaid legal fees.
Donald Trump's ex-lawyer, who has unpaid legal bills, is being sued by his ex-lawyer for unpaid legal bills, which is a reminder only Trump can pull off being Trump. Trump's lawyer comes to him asking for money he's owed. Trump makes up some bullshit, sends him away empty-handed, and the lawyer's like, oh, well, at least I tried. Then that same lawyer tries that same move with his legal representation, and they're like, you, pay me.
Now, I'm glad all these rats are jumping ship. The fact is, that's what rats do. Ultimately, rats have to save themselves.
But what if I verbally agree to pay you without a specific amount or timeline? You, pay me, I swear. This just worked on me like a day ago.
Now, I do believe that some of these people, at some point, their own internal patriotism took over. But it's astonishing how long it took to happen.
And Rudy's not the only Trump crony facing serious financial consequences. There's also MyPillow CEO Mike Lindell, who's being sued for his own part in spreading election lies.
I'm not asking about the lumpy pillow calls.
No, they're not lumpy pillows. That's not what they call on. Okay? When you say lumpy pillows, now you're an ass. You got that? You're an ass,
Mike,
is what you are.
Mike,
no,
sorry.
he's an ass.
No,
he's an ambulance chasing ass. That's what you are. Lumpy pillows, kiss my ass. Obviously, you don't have a My Pillow, too. You don't, do you?
What I'm saying is, Mr. Lindell.
Ass.
The record, Mike, if they are not lumpy pillows, how do you explain this Amazon listing for your product, featuring a very real exchange in which one customer asks, should it be this lumpy and flat, I just got it?
I personally, my will be the most you'll ever, or your.
And another replies, mine was/is lumpy. Or this review titled, it is a bag of lumps. Or this one titled, lumpy, with the body text, lumpy.
Lumpy pillows is such a funny thing to fly off the handle over because even as an insult, it's pretty tame. It sounds like Minnesota slang for testicles. Honey, I was watching C-SPAN the other day and Marjorie Taylor Greene showed a picture of Hunter Biden's lumpy pillows.
But we're fixing to find out how good New York is at eradicating these little fuckers. Because the trial starts on Monday. We're going to find out how many millions and millions of dollars does Donald Trump owe the people of New York. And this isn't even a criminal case. That is still to come. It's going to be one hell of a time in the old barn tonight, boys. Let's have ourselves a hoedown. I'm Zachariah, Lone Star Liberal. Y'all take it easy.
Collection of aspiring despots and weirdos doing everything in their power to insulate an alleged criminal who instigated a coup from accountability. Donald Trump's place in the GOP is kind of like a
ass
in the shitter to.
You still got it.